allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Craig might come later. He didn't say he's gonna be out. Okay. So any public input? Anything online? We're gonna leave that open for the next 30 minutes or so.
Yep.
In case people want to join us and have a question. Okay, minutes, special meeting, June 20th. Attachment 1. Is there any corrections to the?
Motion to approve the
Yeah,
minutes of the June 20 meeting, special board meeting.
second. Any corrections? All those in favor?
Aye.
Current bills payable, general operating expenses, Ms. Camperino, attachments 2 and 3.
And there's one additional small manifest for $2,875.25. It's just a reissue of stale dated checks, and I have copies for anyone who'd like to see that.
Okay, any motion to pay
Move
the
to
bills?
approve.
Charlie? Howard? Any questions on any of the manifests tonight? All those in favor?
Aye.
Superintendent, assistant superintendent report updates, summer programs, hiring, facilities, and school opening. Mrs. Moriarty, attachment number 4.
So we had a great summer program. It was 3 weeks at the middle high school. There were 21 staff who gave up summer time to work in the middle high school program. That included teachers, paras, OT, speech, and guidance. 67 students were invited, 33 students attended. We had 29 high schools. Of those, 29 were high school students, 18 students attended. 16 courses were completed, equaling 14 total credits earned to date. So 14 credits were earned, which puts students in better position. Middle school, 38 students were invited, 24 families confirmed that they would have attendance, 15 students attended. Interlakes Elementary School, summer blasts. We had 37 staff of all varieties working very hard throughout the summer. 148 students were invited, 104 students attended.
Wow.
Sandwich Central School, 3 staff were involved, 24, it was open to all families. They did do some special invitations, 18 students attended. So it was a successful summer of learning for the 3 weeks that we were in place.
Hey, what was the feedback you got from teachers in terms of, are kids starting to feel like it's kind of normal again?
You know, I didn't ask that question. What I would say is my observations. You know, it felt there was a good energy in the building. You know, there was a rhythm to it. We had kids excited to be doing summer learning. Maybe less so at the high school level, I will say. But we had, you know, even at the high school level, there were kids who were motivated and trying to, you know, get to that end goal. But I definitely felt the middle school students, the elementary seemed engaged and happy to be there. Which, you know, last year, this year was 3 weeks. Last year, I believe was 5 weeks, and the year before we had done 6 weeks. One of the things that was recognized is we were really fatiguing our staff. You know, it was just the burnout was high. So returning to a 3-week model, you know, it just seemed to be the right fit.
Makes sense.
Agreed.
Correspondence, superintendent, board secretary, board member.
I'm sorry, we have facilities update as well,
Facilities, I didn't
which
see
we
that.
have been so busy this summer. Mr.
Sorry.
Swanker and Ms. Temperino.
We'll start at the high school, I guess, on the way in. We've been pulling out a lot of 30-plus-year-old junipers and such that you can't trim them anymore because they show the dead side and so on, and they're out. So a lot of fresh new landscaping. Some trees had died. I pulled those out a year prior, but we hadn't been able to plant again until this year. So there's new plantings in conjunction with the Greater Meredith Programs donation. That's towards the cafeteria side of the lawn. But then the entrance, landscape, area, that mound and the curb has been freshened up, pulled, and some hydrangea has been replaced where trees were, in hopes that we don't get such large trees again that end up dying, because there's a lot of salt and snow removal activity right there.
Yes,
Uh,
don't like it.
And I seem to, I don't know if it's just the region or what, the hydrangeas seem to do really well here. So we think we can manage the height and
They're pretty.
health of it. So you'll see a lot of new landscaping. The sign, which was approved a bit ago as well, is still in progress, and trying to get some like brainstorming ideas on design. And for some reason, designers are a little shortcoming right now, but I have some, we have an idea, and I'd like to present at some point. I don't know. I kind of have a sketch now, but
We're talking about the
the main sign.
main side on the road.
And I'm looking at it both ways with the hopes of getting a digital message board ultimately. But if for some reason we don't get full permission on that, we would drop back to another letter board.
Is that town?
Yeah, that's in the zoning ordinance. We do have to apply for permission for that.
Do
So
what I can to help.
The board had encumbered, it was, I think, $10,000 a couple years back, or a year or so back, to work on the sign. And we've been trying to, again, get that creative piece, because it is quite aged, and it is a major landmark on 25.
Oh, yeah.
And want to make sure we make the most of the opportunity to improve it.
yeah, it needs to freshen up, and we'll get there. I don't foresee successfully getting that installed before the start of school, but I think if I can keep moving on it, probably early fall, something maybe in October, something like that. But obviously I want to share the final draft with everybody and make sure it's what, we want. But I guess just to talk about it quick, my intention was to try to simplify it. Right now, there's a lot of wording on the sign, and it's a drive-by sign on a state road. So I think kind of going simple with our Interlakes Middle High School is really that's the content that we're looking for, versus now it says serving the towns of Merritt, Center Harbor, Sandwich, Interlakes, home of the Lakers. There's a lot, like, it doesn't have an impact as much as just something simple like our logo. So
How about in the Lakes Prep?
yeah. Plus with the digital message board, that's the message we want to get out anyway. So I think going, branding and message board. So that's what I'm going to run with for now.
We're going to talk about some of the branding you're doing at ILES.
Yep. So down at ILES, we're trying to repair and freshen up the front facade of the building. There was concrete pillars, and some of the canopy is just ephes work. It's stucco, basically. And we repaired all the concrete and repairing the fascia of that stucco work and adding some color, trying to get the colors again of the blue wave down there. So trying to bring in that theme of Interlakes Blue Wave Elementary School. And so we had 2 tones of blue and some new signage freshening up to say main office and gymnasium, things like that going in. And we don't have like a big plan of say, I'm going to paint the entire school, but I'm slowly trying to paint within a budget every year.
This is inside?
Yeah. And so, but I use that little bit of inside work to balance weather so I can keep the crew on site. So we've taken that scheme from outside and inside, and in the kiosk going in, painted some elements, starting to take away some of the older mauve color, and just, again, trying to tie in the school colors and the theme of everything. So
The steps on the south end of the middle high that were deteriorating?
Yes.
yep, the steps, you're going to do a repair so that they are safe and usable for this year, because we're going to need to do some winter design work and prep and contracting in order to really make that a renewal project, because the repair price, which I did price out, was, it was going to match a tear out and install. And so if we really want to repair everything. That was just the stair portion. So
Right.
the sidewalls of masonry are also just crumbling from salt and things like that. So to really redo it, I think we need to plan for it, and we'll do so over the winter. But they'll be safe and usable for egress this winter.
And the back of ILES, the playground area, do you want to talk
Yeah,
about that?
and we broke ground a week ago, tearing up from the kindergarten, first grade wing, that first playground as you enter the fire road off Baker Lane. We've torn that portion up to install accessible ramps to get children from the school finished floor to the playground plateau up on the hill, but it'll be accessible, compliant for anyone to use
And easily maintained.
and easily maintained. We should be able to run snow blowers or the tractor with the blower on it and keep snow off it. And then that will connect to, we're going to put a paved walking path right along the edge of that kind of plateau. Again, just to provide a safe, firm walking path for anyone, again, so you're not walking in wet grass, mud, or whatever the conditions may be. And I'm hoping it'll delineate the area enough and help with maybe if they need to keep children in certain areas during recess, or there are certain times that they can say, don't go past the path, or stay on the path, however they need to use it. But it should repair easily, get that walking path. The idea is to continue it all the way around and connect them to what was kind of just rough dirt path coming out of the wood area and things. And they had washed out quite a bit as well. So
So it's been a busy summer for facilities, and it's showing. I mean, it really is showing the improvements.
The number of
Charlie has a
Yes.
question.
I just would encourage my fellow board members to do an actual drive-by. I did it a little over a week ago. And it's really starting to come along, look nice, and it's not a lot of money either, relative to the work that's being done, and I think the end result we're gonna get. Or if you wanna take the easy way, you can just meet with Trish, she has some interesting ways to get an overview of what's going on.
we will add another big expenses we do every year with CIP is roofing. And there's currently no ballasted roofs on the middle high school, which is a major feat. And there's only 2 large sections left of the elementary, but that'll be next year.
And then we can rest for 5 years.
Yeah. But we
And then it starts
do it all
again.
over again,
all
right.
over again.
But we did complete that middle high school section, and we also completed there's a flat section of Sandwich that got repaired and restored. So that should last another nice long time. And also we started installing the guardrail, which is part of the safety request, which started as, protection from runaway or purposeful runaway cars on 25. But in order to get the best price, I got to give them a little more linear feet. And as we're starting to walk the campus, we're realizing there is a maximum slope. I'm just going to forget what it is, but if you give someone a drivable surface, the maximum slope it can fall away next to them before it requires a guardrail is a certain percentage. And going down past the cafeteria, the high school, the kitchen area, that clearly met it. And so we're continuing it down that way. And then a further walk down in current conditions of the guardrails we had kind of improved to add those into. So the middle high school, all the guardrail work will be renewed and extended along that front line again for that ultimate safety in the front of the school.
Are we gonna tent anywhere outside?
So I know we had kind of moved away because it was damaging the grass.
Yeah, it was tough to keep grass under it in those areas, and the use seemed to be somewhat limited. And this spring, nobody really requested it, so we didn't re-tent.
Still encouraging outdoor
Yeah,
space,
right.
but it seems like meeting the tents,
Yeah.
is not as much of a necessity.
So I think it's something we need to assess and say, what do we want to do?
So a hiring update, if there are no questions for Brian.
Oh, the
Oh,
track
yes.
and field project is complete as of today.
Wow.
Nice.
We're giving it 2 days to cool off and cure. It's been so hot and humid during some of the last applications. Just like it to sit and have this new lower humidity and temperature come down, and then it'll be reopened to everyone on Friday. So,
Looks beautiful.
It really does.
yeah, it really pops. It looks great.
Very
We kept
nice.
everything on the track. I tried to just keep blue and white. Like
Mhm.
normally arrows for the exchange are yellow, but I did them white because there's no rule on it. And the shadows of the numbers, I did blue shadow instead of black. So we're just trying to keep that blue and white going.
Ryan's efforts to really try to bring in, the blue, the Laker blue, the blue wave, the foxes, the green, like it's just, and Mr. Parsons is doing the same with some work on our website.
Yep.
And just it really adds a cohesive feeling to things.
Can you speak to the stadium seating, or is that already something?
No.
you-
I think that's gonna get delayed,
We're
that
gonna talk
conversation.
next time.
But I did want to bring the board's attention to our hiring. So you have attachment 4, which had a list of hires and some shifting roles. We are still looking at this time for a social studies teacher. We are trying to work on a contingency plan as well. We are still looking for para educators. I don't have the exact number at this stage because they have been in the process all week and we've got reference checks in play and so forth. We definitely are getting traffic for paraeducator positions. Sometimes it's just not the best fit. Indeed is proving to be a good spot for us to get a lot of traffic from. So that has been a good shift. So principals are definitely busy trying to get that finalized. We were short 2 bus drivers and now I believe we are short 4. 4.
We are short 4.
We were short 2 and now we're short 4. So
Is
One
that
is-
off the 13 need, or is that?
One is, so they have to go out the beginning of each season, school season, per their collective bargaining agreement to see who wants which route. So once the routes are established, the drivers get to choose based on seniority. But right now, we have 1 driver out on a leave of absence, 2 regular routes, 2 other regular routes open, and 1 out of district special ed transportation open.
So I know that Pam Bishop is working hard to try to get those filled.
She's got 5 drivers in queue waiting for their licensing.
Oh, yes, Howard.
Thank you. Mary, how are we doing with substitute teachers?
That I would say we've had some people apply, but we're not getting, I think, as much traffic for that as we are with paraeducators. But we certainly are trying to actively hire those positions. It's a critical piece, having substitutes. And we know we felt the burden of that over the last couple of years.
I asked the question specifically in light of the new state regulations around in-person education. You could have 200 students out and still have in-person education. But what would happen if we lost 15 teachers?
We need a large place to put the remaining students so the remaining teachers could all pitch in. But we are actively working on it as well
I'm
as,
sure, it's the condition.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a social problem, not
Right.
an educational problem.
Are we still on hiring update?
I can certainly move to opening. We are actively getting ready to open. We do have our administrative retreat, which is over the next 3 days. We do go away as an administrative team and really put our heads all under the tent and roll up our sleeves. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but we are getting primed coming in.
Yes,
As I look through the Interlakes hiring update, I note that there are 13 new team members under the teacher category. Teacher, is that replacing a like amount or is that adding to the number of educational FTEs?
So, we did not add to the FTEs for teachers, so they were replacing people who had retired or had, moved to other positions or moved on.
Follow up if I may. Did we meet the new, I'm going to say assistant principal, but maybe that's not the right term for the dean of learning?
You have not met Linda Otney. That was a tight time at the end of the year, so, and we were trying to finish hiring before we lost people.
So if she is an AP in essence, is she an AP all the way
So her,
K-12?
her role will be K-12 with some responsibilities at ILES and some at the middle high.
And the middle high has how many APs
So
already?
they have, Mr. Finia is the Dean of Students in Operations.
Yeah.
And then part of this Dean of Learning, and ILES has the other part.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's 3 APs in
Correct.
essence for the district, for the school.
Correct.
Thanks.
Any other? Okay, moving along to correspondence, superintendent, board secretary, board members, any correspondence? Nope. Old business, elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds, 1, 2, 3, ESSER 1, 2, 3, coronavirus aid.
Not that you didn't have this multiple times in your packet. I do
No,
have
I
an
was wondering.
updated copy.
Don't these look the same?
That's what I asked you yesterday.
So here it is. I think this is an easier copy, and did need to make a couple of adjustments. So one of the things that we tried to do is refine some of the, sometimes when you have a personnel amount in there, somebody changes their health insurance or something, that changes what we had originally budgeted. So this is just giving you a sense of what is left in terms of ESSER funds, just for your knowledge. So CARES Act, which was ESSER 1, is fully spent. ESSER 2, I did shift another 30,000 to electronic access for software that's continue to support Schoology, which is our online learning management system. There's 30,000 to cover that. And then there's about $71,000 remaining in ESSER 2. In ESSER 3, so the white rows are what are for this year. So if you recall, there was the literacy teacher support at the high school, the math teacher at the high school level, indirect costs, they get applied as the grant period goes on. So there's still remaining funds there to be encumbered. And then that leaves about 905,000, which was originally talked about for HVAC. So tonight's really not to get into I think any real discussion about it. I just wanted the board to at least be aware of where things are at. And also, there had been positions previously. I just want the board to know, the only positions remaining are that literacy teacher, that's a part-time position, that's 0.3, and the math teacher, which is full-time at 1 FTE.
Mary, can I give a little update on the HVAC?
Yeah.
That's,
Absolutely.
another project that started 2 years ago, a lot of focus on HVAC, and through these funds, we put aside money to get an engineering study of all of our facilities. And the elementary school has been completed, the engineering portion. The high school is 90%. They're about ready to close that one out. And then we'll be moving to do Sandwich the study. Out of the study from elementary school came the first recommendations on the first goal that we all agreed on, which was how do we get the best air exchanges and oxygen to the current standards. And so they re-engineered it and calculated it. And just this past week, we had the balancing company come in and actually they will certify that the air is balanced to the design that we had created. So I don't have the report because we just completed it yesterday even, but a lot of good news from the guys in the field. They were able to make extravagant improvements of airflow and balancing of the elementary school. So then that just means more oxygen and more air exchanges at a better rate.
And more efficient systems.
Yes, and all out of everything that we currently have, which again was the first step in the goal is just assess what we have, come up with what would we like? Let's see what we can get out of our current equipment. Try to get the air quality, more exchanges, better filtration, all of that. And then, for future talks, we could talk about how we dehumidify and cool if that's the next step. But from the elementary school, I'll say the weird quirk that came out of the engineering study was that the ductwork, say with size for a unit on the roof, that would be 8,000 CFMs of volume. The units that actually got installed were 4,000 CFMs. So at some point, way back before NBUS, there was a decision or something, a mismatch, and so the ductwork is well oversized for the unit, but it's working to our advantage. And the gentlemen balancing were able to take the 4,000 CFM units and they reshift the motors and can change some amperage, and which changes the fan speed and how much they can draw. And they were able to get additional 1,000 CFM out of each unit just by simple reshifting of the pulleys and playing with the amperage of the motors and distribute right to the design we were looking for. So it wasn't a disaster to find out that the units can't provide the amount of flow that we were designing to. So there should be, you may not notice them, but there'll be drastic oxygen improvements made at that elementary school.
That's great.
And then in the fine print at the bottom of the SR2 and the SR3, it says funds available through 9/30/23 for SR2. So we have to spend or encumber that money before the end of September
You have
of
to,
next year.
you have to have it, completed. Like, I think if you were doing some kind of, construction or something, it would have to be completed by that.
Completed, not just encumbered. I'm just saying, the same thing holds. Obviously, it's more important for 24.
Right.
But again, I raised the issue of recurring expenses, non-recurring revenue. And that would suggest in 2 years, it looks like the 905 number will carry us for a while into that, but
So, again, just the only two salaries at this point are the literacy support, which is that partial, and the math teacher.
Okay. New business. So under new business, SR3 required Interlake School District safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of services for 2022-2023 school year.
So a requirement of our ESSER funds is we are required to have a safe return to in-person instruction and continuity service plan. It's supposed to be reviewed every 6 months. What I did do is draft a plan here that really focuses on, a normal school year, and that any requirements required by the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services will be certainly implemented, but not looking to go
In the Department of Education.
in Department of Education, not looking at any recommendations or guidance, but really sticking with requirements is what I have proposed here. It's quite a simplification of what we had in the last 2 years.
So you're looking for a motion to
Yes.
approve the Interlake School District safe return in-person instruction.
The move is presented.
Might be helpful before you vote, just to double check that there is no public comment. in case
Yes,
there
yes.
was
yeah,
something.
we're 6:30 now.
Yeah, that's fine. No?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, so we have Duncan and we had Nancy second. Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
And so,
And
Madam Chair,
yeah,
I abstain.
oh, B, we're gonna discuss in another meeting. C, security action for education, but safe grant update. Priorities.
So I want to commend Ms. Temporino, Mr. Swanker, and then Mr. Fimia, who's looking to grow his skill set in grant writing and worked to submit for all 4 schools. The Department of Ed looks at the middle and the high school as 2 separate entities. So we submitted for all 4 schools for the early round SAFE grants. The maximum you could ask for is 100,000 per school. We have asked for that. We don't know if we have been the recipients of them at this time, but we definitely got them in. We were well positioned because we have done our security assessments and can certainly tie things back. So I did want the board to be aware that the good work of Ms. Temporino, Mr. Swanker, and Mr. Fimia has allowed us to have those applications in.
Charlie?
Mary, is that for like, hard items,
Yes.
facilities improvements?
Yes.
Are there any grants out there for training?
There are some grants out there for training, but they're tied to specific training. We had a comprehensive threat assessment program that we utilize. The state does have one, but we had already invested in ours and training in our, and a choice. It was we had made that choice. We would have to abandon that and go to the states to use the training. So that part's a little challenging. This was definitely hard. I'm trying to think of the things that were on. I don't think training was.
Training was
Not
not
on
part
the
of it.
list.
It was surveillance and access control predominantly.
We are ever doing security. We certainly won't talk specifics here, but it's a constant evolution, and being able to get right in on and to be well positioned to do the application was good. I will say very grateful to the Homeland Security for a simple application. It may not have been electronically easy because it had some quirks, but it was at least a simple application to complete.
Okay.
We'll keep you posted on that.
2022, 2023 school calendar proposal, attachment 9. Where?
So, training is an important part of our safety in schools as well as instruction. Time is our challenge. We are required each year to do 2 hours of suicide prevention training. We are required to do an hour of bullying training, for example. We are, we need to, in order to keep our emergency actions, real life and able to be able to respond to emergencies, we have to do training for our emergency plans. We just are very compressed for time. And I think for a number of reasons this year, we would benefit from having an additional day for each level. So right now, what I would like to propose to the board for your consideration is November 28th, which was a teacher workshop day at the elementary, and the middle high would have school. And then January 27th, which was a teacher workshop day for the middle high, elementary had school, that both of those days become full days for trainings within the school district. So the workshop day on the 28th for the elementary, that is a teacher directed day. It is used to work on progress reporting. On the 27th, that day is used by middle high for the transition to a new semester. But the 28th and the 27th for the other group would be to assist with training. Either other time will be used for those trainings, and this time could be used for learning specific things. The middle high school is going through the NESC process. Which is the New England Association of Schools and Colleges, the accreditation process. So having time for work around in those areas would be beneficial. The elementary has a number of areas that they too are looking to get some additional time to work together and that time would be appreciated. We still exceed the number of hours required by the state for school.
Okay.
I just have a question. I'm confused looking at this and listening to what you said. So the November 28th and January 27th, there will be no students in school or just part of the students in school?
What's proposed, what we originally was approved was to have part of the students in school. I'm saying to have no students in school.
No students in school.
So each grade, each level would end up with one less school day. Staff would end up with one more day for staff focused work.
Right.
Directed.
I knew Howard was gonna have a question.
Thank you. Mary, what is the overlap with the area vocational center?
We have worked hard to try to be aligned with them. The 28th, I believe, is off. The 27th, I'm not sure. We had worked, to try to find as many common times off so that we could limit that. We have offered a bus in the past, transportation for students, which is not always received, that they want an extra day of school, but for kids who are like enrolled in the more senior aspects of their learning, they do take advantage. So we have had kids take advantage of that. I do know that from the UIT's perspective that we have pretty good track record with them trying to minimize that impact.
But there are two school calendars involved.
There are.
Theirs and ours.
Correct. And what makes it challenging is the UIT is driven by the Laconia School District calendar, which is driven by some of their collective bargaining agreements. There's or by elections. It's difficult to find all the opportunities to eliminate every conflict.
Yeah, historically, I think we've missed a perfect match by 8 to 10 days.
I think I will have that for you for the next meeting. I had recently done that. I just can't remember. But we were in better alignment than a number of districts.
I appreciate the effort that's being made. And I appreciate the transportation for the students. I think that's a tremendous thing to do, even though some don't take advantage. And I assume that's going to continue.
Absolutely. I think I don't think we should deny a kid who wants to go to their program.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So I noticed that the 28th of November extends the Thanksgiving break.
It does.
I'm wondering why the 27th of January and not the 3rd.
It is because of the semester break. It's within the collective bargaining agreement.
Teachers want to grade papers.
Yeah. It's definitely driven by the number of days in the calendar to make that break.
I think you're looking for more. Oh, Duncan
So,
has a question.
I'll move it as presented. And we can continue.
Okay,
Can I have one last question?
well, let's move.
Fine,
Okay, so Duncan,
made the motion.
yes, Howard, now you can ask your question.
Forgot what he was going to say.
Absolutely right. I'm sorry, Mike.
Welcome to the whole.
That's okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, all those in favor of the motion of the school calendar with the November 28th and January 27th workshops?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's say no.
Okay,
This is so this isn't related to what we were voting on, but this is pretty late for Interlakes to start after Labor Day, right?
We have been the last couple years
Yeah.
starting after Labor Day.
Yeah.
There seems to be, I think just naturally there's a shift back to that within
There's a lot of
Also
noise
extending-
against
Yeah.
starting before
Extending
Labor
pretty
Day.
deep into June.
Yeah,
to accomplish
right.
it.
I mean, that
I mean,
is the
it's,
problem, right?
you know.
That's the challenge. It's the, you can only spread it out so many ways.
I mean, as a current parent, I personally like that shift,
Mhm.
I remembered.
I will once again mention April vacation.
Yes. We still talk snow days, but in the context of no longer providing virtual we're back to the old model of if it snows, you don't have
So-
school versus having,
We have taken the approach that we value in-person learning, even if it does extend the school year. So we have not gone with blizzard bags. Those can be challenging days. That's a term that's often used. I don't know if that, is a conversation that people want to revisit, but it has been that the in-person time is pretty valuable,
Yeah.
and trying to, make up a day or two is seems to be something that, from an educational standpoint, feels more valuable than trying to cobble something together on a unexpected day of snow.
I mean, I understand in person over virtual is superior. But nothing, a snow day
Mhm.
is not that. So, but I understand, one, the economics of it and how to,
But the presumption is that you're getting that back in by adding it at the end.
Correct.
I understand.
And the blizzard bags are suboptimal.
Yeah.
And I think that's a generous,
I think
my
that
understanding of
challenging.
communities that
I
go that route is that they're very ineffective and not successful. And if anything, the day after the blizzard, you're filling out your worksheets from the blizzard bags, you've lost a day and a half. So.
I wanted my cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
Well, I would just ask the question though, and I don't know, but what's the quality of learning if you tack on 3 or 5 days?
And that gets hard too, especially if you get a heat wave, right? I think the best thing is hopefully we don't have snow days, right? There's continuity of learning is such an important piece. And
2007, 2008, there were like 12 snow days this year.
I
Whatever
remember,
it was.
yeah, it was brutal. We have been fortunate, I would say, at least through the COVID experience. It hasn't been as bad with snow days, which was welcome. But it interrupts the continuity, and, having later days in June that are uncomfortable, kids their minds start to wander, which,
Start.
are well wandered at that point.
And if it gets really bad, you're really talking about the possibility of school in July. I mean,
Well, I think the contract might prohibit that. I'd have to look at that.
Okay.
Usually
I
contracts
mean, you're butting up
are,
right against, you're using all
Yeah.
of June if
Yeah.
you're,
All of you.
yeah, I mean, if your last day is the 21st.
so it may be something that the board would like to revisit. We can certainly do that. It's not a bad thing to be nimble, so that we know how to use the tools. We know how to use the tools, but to put them in action on an unexpected kind of schedule. We have that would probably be a wider conversation. I know teachers have expressed concern about the quality. And I know parents have, it's the struggle, particularly with younger kids, right? That makes it a challenge if you don't have an adult who can really focus on supporting. But it doesn't, it couldn't be tiered by age as well. Reading is always a good thing.
I think all of those issues are well raised. I would also point out that it puts the district in a very difficult situation. We are in fact responsible for a certain level of proficiency in learning among our students. Sometimes we get community cooperation more than other times. But it is difficult around attendance once you start dragging past the middle of June. I don't know. There are contradictions here that I do not like.
It's tough.
Okay, moving on. So I believe we're gonna cover E and F in the non-public section,
Okay.
so we will discuss that in non-public. So we're on policy, doesn't seem like we have any action required on policy tonight. Additional business, members of the board and members of the administration. Yes, Mark.
This is not a recommendation because I haven't finished the book, but it's been 5 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list at number 1. The title of the book is The Battle for the American Mind. And it's all about how public education has evolved, where it is today. Interesting book. Not sure I agree with much of it, but it's an interesting book.
Okay. Our public input, do we have any public input?
Just refreshing. No?
Okay. Moving down to the announcements.
So now that we have this 30-minute rule, does that mean we should officially close the public comment
That
period?
would probably make
Yes, let's
sense.
close the public comment section.
That-
And then it is 6:46.
Does that mean I just close that email account? You don't check it anymore?
I would say yes.
I would say we've done it, so.
Gave them the 2 chances.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, announcement, Tuesday, August 23rd, Interlake School Board meeting at the Humiston Building, special school board meeting at 6 p.m. Tuesday, August 30th, Interlake School Board Policy Review Committee, Humiston, from at 5:30. Tuesday, September 13th, Interlake School Board at Humiston Conference Room. Policy review meeting will be at 5:30 and regular school board meeting at 6 p.m. And Tuesday, September 27th, Interlakes School Board at the Humiston Building. Regular school board meeting is at 6 p.m. And we will be going into non-public session for RSA 91A3 negotiations and the hiring of any person as a public employee, matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of this board, unless that person requests an open meeting.
May I also add, I'm sorry, we should have put on safety as well. We have some safety updates for you. I just lost my. That is, I believe. For safety,
Safety.
emergency operations.
So emergency operations as well under RSA 91A3, okay?
Motion to move.
Into the non-public session.
Yeah, motion to move into the non-public session.
Nancy?
Ms. Merrill,
Yeah,
yes or no?
yes.
Mr. Billings?
Yes.
Ms. Starr? Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Kennedy? Yes. Mr. Porter's up, yes, and I am yes as well.
Okay, we are going into non-public.
Oh, yes.